Now let's see what the big breakthrough was for her in regards to Ephesians 5.
The big breakthrough came with Ephesians 5.
Okay.
And now we're not talking about women in leadership, but we're talking about, the issues of women and men in authority. And what that was is that I realized that
What was it?
all the Bibles that I had read broke up a sentence and started a new topic.
Yes, because there was no punctuation marks and also paragraphs, and no nothing in ancient Greek or even in Hebrew. In Hebrew, there wasn't even. That's why there was no punctuation marks. So that's no big secret.
Right? And so that I started, and the more I studied, this thing kept breaking. This passage kept breaking for me. The more I studied it, the more it looked really, really interesting. But
yeah, because the more you study in theology, if you are not led by the Ruach of Elohim, and you're just gonna take on all the information and process it according to your own understanding, which these people do. That's why they are Christians. And sorry for saying that, I don't mean it to hurt anyone, but Christianity is not representing Hamashiach Yahusha or Jesus, because they don't live like that. They don't think like that. They don't look like that, or him. Therefore, they cannot be the representation of him. So this is all theology and philosophy. And when you are in a college of theology or university, you are taking on many, many ideas and dogmas of man, which they have developed and have been developing over the centuries, taking it as that is some kind of truth. This is the danger of education.
First breakthrough was to realize that wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands was right in the middle of a sentence, and that the sentence started with Ephesians 5:18.
Let me just show you what she's talking about. So this is the King James version, and be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit or the Ruach, speaking to yourselves in psalms, hymns, spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Sovereign, giving thanks always for all things unto Elohim and the Father, in the name of our Sovereign Yahushua Mashiach, or Jesus Christ, submitting yourselves to one to another, in the fear of God or Elohim. And in 5:22, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Sovereign. The Sovereign, or the Lord here, is Hamashiach Yahushua, or Jesus Christ. And that's important because he is our husband. The ecclesia, or they call it the church, is the body of Mashiach, but also the bride as well. So all the believers, the true believers, should be behaving as a bride. And one of the characteristics of a bride is a submissive ruach and a submissive demeanor. If we teach women to be strong, independent, and equal with man, that's just not going to work, because we're never going to be equal with Hamashiach Yahusha, who is our husband. So marriage should portray the same relationship between the parties as the relationship between him and us. We can try and revert that and say we are equal with him because he's equal with the Holy Spirit and the Father, but the three is one and all that. But that's just Christian theology.
And it doesn't really end until the instructions to women are done. And then the next thing that was a major...
Yeah, all right, there's no secret. There wasn't no secret. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husband as to the Sovereign. So women who are wives should be in submission to their own husbands as they are unto the Sovereign Hamashiach Yahushua, or Jesus Christ. That's the same kind of submission, the same type, the same sort of submission. Doesn't matter how we say it. Just as submissive to your husband as to the Sovereign. There's no theology needed, no college, no university, no Greek dictionary and nothing. Just plain simple English. And English is obviously not even my first language. For the husband is the head of wife. Kefale means head. It's just the head. He's the leader. He's the absolute number one in the family. Even as Christ is head of the ecclesia or the church, and he is the savior of the body. So the same way as Hamashiach Yahusha, Jesus Christ, is the head of the ecclesia or the church, the same way the husband is the head of wife. I don't understand what's so difficult about this. You don't need nothing. It's just there. Anyone who's listening now can check their own Bible, no matter what kind of translation that will be, it's going to be the same.
Breakthrough is that it doesn't even say women submit to your husbands. It says women to your husbands.
No, it does say women submit to your own husbands. It's very easy now to check this. Ephesians 5:22. Everyone can follow Blue Letter Bible. Aigunakes tois ideois andrasin hypotase the posto curio. The phrase submit yourself is G5293 hypotase the, meaning submit yourselves. It's there, right there in the Greek. All can see, it's here. I don't know what she's talking about. It's not there, it's there. Plain and simple. And the word is to arrange under, subordinate, to subject, put in subjection, to subject oneself, obey, submit to one's control, yield to one's admonition or advice, to obey or be subject. So women should be, wives rather, should be subject or in subjection or in submission, or should obey their husbands. This is what Shaul is saying, or Paul, in this letter. And it's right there. It's not there, it's there. Ideois is unto your own, yourself. Submit yourselves willingly. But it doesn't matter how. This is just what wives should be doing. I'm not going to say she's lying, saying it's not there, but clearly she said not there, right?
Even say women submit to your husbands. It says women to your husbands.
No, it doesn't. We just saw it does say that. It's here, right here. Hypotasete. Hypotasso meaning submit to submit in Greek. And I'm clearly not a Greek scholar. It's just everybody can check now. I do not understand what she's talking about.
And it's like, oh, and especially the more I got into actually the study of discourse analysis, which has nothing to do with a study of
yeah, this is what I'm saying. So now you are in university and college, and now you go into discourse analysis and philosophy and contemporary culture, context, and all these kind of things, and you convince yourself. You can always find arguments to support your ideas. If anything one learns in university, especially in theology, that is, you can find someone somewhere at some point in history who agrees with your viewpoint. And the art is to find the truth in amongst all these viewpoints, not the one that supports my view or my ideas, and in this case hers, but the true idea. And this was the big breakthrough she's talking about now.
Yeah.
respect the grammar.
Yeah, respect the grammar. It's right here. So you should really respect the grammar. Gunai case, hypotasete, ideois. Andrasin, and andrasin is from aner meaning man or husband. It clearly says what's in the translation. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husband as unto the sovereign. Women, wives, should think about their husbands as they think about Hamashiach Yahusha or the Messiah or Jesus Christ, the same way they should look at him. Because he is the head of the wife. In 5:23 it says. So that's her starting point.
It's being done here. And that's your starting point.
If that's your starting point, and right at the start you are wrong, you're on the wrong path. So after that, you cannot get to the destination that easily. And also, the chances are you're going to end up in somewhere total different place. And now Preston asked a legitimate question.
I mean, not totally familiar with the issue. So in Ephesians 5:22, most translations, like mine here, says, "Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord." But that sentence doesn't begin, like you said, it begins in 5:18, but then 5:21 has is it a participle? Submitting to one another in the fear of Christ. And then the Greek would say, "Wives, to your own husband." It isn't.
No, it's there. Now we just saw it, so I don't know what they are talking about. This is the translation which the King James Bible is working from. Wives, submit unto your own husbands. The word is clearly there. Hypotasete. Submit. And if someone's interested, hypo is meaning under, and tasso in the Greek is appoint or ordain, set, determine. So basically, it's just the same as submission, and it's quite easy and simple. Just put yourself under. Just order yourself under, because you are submitting yourself. So let's see the explanation.
Like the verbal, there is a verbal sense carried over into 22, right?
No, there is no verbal sense. It could be, actually. It could be a verbal sense, because in this 21, there is submitting, and there's going to be hypotasso again. And it's right there. Hypotasso menoi, alelois en phobo theo. To be submitted to each other in the fear of Elohim. So there is hypotasso. It could be carried over, but he doesn't do, Shaul, he didn't use that verbal carrying over and all that. He just wrote it down. Hypotaseta.
It's not like it's wrong to say, or is it wrong? What's the best translation of 5:22? Not the most woodenly literal, but like what's Paul saying in that verse?
No, it's written there. It's just simply written there. There's no question about that, Preston. It's right there.
Well, in the Common English Bible, we said I wanted to actually take all of the household code that goes down through 6:9, and I wanted to indent it with bullet points.
Huh.
You don't need to do that. You don't need bullet points and 2 chapters and nothing. Just tell us what's written, right? This is what we wanna hear. Just tell us what's written there. You are the theologian.
Show that the whole thing was about submitting to one another, because
yes, the whole thing about submitting to one another. However, wives should submit themselves further unto their own husbands. Obey them just as they obey Hamashiach Yahushua.
What it is yes, there is a transition to the household code, and the fact that
doesn't matter if there is a transition into the household code. We're talking about Ephesians 5:21.
takes place right in the middle of a sentence means this is being embedded in what the understanding is of being filled with the Spirit. And so it says, be filled with the Spirit. And then it has a whole string of participles, singing, psalming, making music, giving thanks, submitting to one another. For example,
right,
wives to husbands.
What? No, for example, whatever. It doesn't make sense what she's talking about, I think. So, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. And then, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the sovereign. For the husband. This is a different chain of thought starting now. The writer, Shaul, is talking about wives now. Before, he was talking about people, or rather the believers in general as a group. And now he's talking about women. I really advise everyone to just read this through this lens, what I just showed you. Talking about here from 1, therefore followers of Elohim, dear children. Now he's talking about the church, the ecclesia, the people who are called from the world by Elohim. And he's writing all these passages about their behavior as a community, men and women. Now, he ends it by saying, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. And I think totally rightly, now, starting a new commandment, really. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husband. But she's not talking about that. She's talking about something else, philosophy.
For example, children to parents.
Yeah, you see, she didn't answer the question. She just went roundabout And now she's talking about children and household codes and all these kind of things. Just answer the question, is it there or not?
But it says the thing is like what it's saying, submitting to one another, wives to husbands, husbands to wives. And
no, he doesn't say husbands to wives. I don't know. Just look at this. There is nowhere. Shaul says or writes, husbands, submit unto your own wives. But what he does say, husbands, love your wives, even as Mashiach also loved the ecclesia and gave himself for it. So wives should submit, husbands should love. And that's the union. We submit ourselves to HaMashiach Yahusha, and he loves us because he gave himself up for us. Understood? And the reason she just avoided the actual question, and Preston is nodding, because they know that they cannot get out of this using the scriptures.
so what I've come to understand that is to say, one of the things you're going to ask as a first
Now, nothing, no answer to the question, and now move on to another question.
century person in a house church, you're going to say, submit to one another, and go, I'm sorry, but how am I going to submit to my slave here?
Yeah, it doesn't make no sense what you're saying. This is the problem. No one should submit unto their own slaves. Slaves should submit unto their ruler, or sovereign rather, or owner in that case. Yeah, of course, their owners will treat them as a follower of HaMashiach Yahusha should treat everyone. But don't you think that the master will submit unto the slave and treat them like the slave should treat them?
I mean, there's a non sequitur here.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's a non sequitur. It doesn't make no sense what you're saying. And she avoided the question, meaning that there is no explanation and no answer. She needed to just move out somewhere, start a different conversation, a different topic, because she couldn't answer the question.
And so
And it goes on.
breaks out these three authority relationships, and then it's okay, this is how it's going to work
Yeah, how it's going to work? Tell us.
with you. But he spends the most time talking about men.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because they were the leaders. Of course, he's talking about men because if he sorts men out, they going to regulate their households and lead their households, slaves, women, children, everyone in there according to just rulership and just rules and regulations. So he needs to talk more to men because they're going to pass on this information to their families and also the greater families. So well done.
And what's really interesting about that is that he almost says nothing to women. He doesn't even, do you understand? Most
Yeah, even Elohim in the garden didn't say nothing to women. He was just talking to Adam. Adam, he gave his commandments regarding the tree. He let him name the animals. He discussed things with him, I guess. He never talked to the woman until chapter 3:16, I believe.
English readers will not understand there is not a single command given to women.
There is a command given to women. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands. And that's clearly a command. It's right here. Present passive subjunctive. Meaning this is how it is. Elohim uses similar language when he's talking about in Vayikra. It's Leviticus chapter 23. Talking about his Shabbats and appointed times. This is what you are going to do. This is how you do it. I expect you to do it. And that's considered as a command. And she, as a Greek scholar, so-called, she should know this. But I suggest everyone just look at these things, what I'm talking about, look it up, and you understand. It means this is how it's done. And that's a commandment. This is how I expect you to do it. He didn't say, do this, do that. This is what it is. This is how it is. It will be.
That's not how the text reads, but there's not an imperative. Not
Yeah, there is no imperative. That's true. It's subjunctive, but that means the same thing.
the case for men. So women, he's like almost avoiding using a command. Why? I think it's because generally everyone understands what a woman's role is supposed to be.
Yeah, no, it seems like they don't really. You don't understand this because you say that women can lead and all sorts of things now. So not everybody understands.
But then he turns it all onto his head. He starts giving commands to men. And what?
Yeah, of course, because they didn't know that.
He says the strangest thing to men. And I rarely
Like what? What is strange?
have seen complementarians, if never, have seen complementarians really explain what it means that Jesus is the model and he's giving baths and washing clothes and ironing and doing.
Yeah, come on now. It's just simple. It's right here. For the husband, the head of the wife, and husbands, love your wives, even as Mashiach also loved the ecclesia. Just because Hamashiach Yahusha washed the disciples' feet, it doesn't mean that men should wash everybody's feet. That was just about servitude, a mindset of a servant who works for his family, for the good of his family, to create something greater than himself, to build a house, a name for himself, and especially for Elohim, for his esteem. This is what a servant's mindset. It doesn't mean that he's gonna run around his wife asking what I can do for you, or can I wash the dishes and the clothes and hang them and iron them after that. That's the wife's duty.
Doing spot removal.
Doing domestic chores, like in your book you talked about.
Yeah, the Christian eunuch. That's what I was talking about. The spirit of Jezebel and the Christian eunuch. The Christian eunuch gladly submits himself under his wife because they have been indoctrinated. And I'm not saying Preston is one of them, because I don't think so. He has some good ideas, but however, sometimes that spirit comes out of him.
About how shocking it would have been to describe the husband's role in terms of domestic household chores.
There are no domestic household chores for men in the Bible. It's just ridiculous. And I don't know, how can they not understand that in that world, women got pregnant if they were wives. So they couldn't work. They were not like business women and strong, independent women learning theology and all that kind of stuff. If a woman had a husband, she got pregnant. And as soon as you got pregnant, your career was over, because you had to be home with a child. There was no nursery, kindergarten, school, and all these babysitter and all these kind of things. Servants. Not everybody had servants in Greece. If you didn't have no servants, babysitter, there was no school, what were you doing with your 60-year-old child? You were a businesswoman and carrying your 2 children, pregnant with the 3rd one. If you had a husband, you got pregnant. And this is how far we removed from nature now. That don't even consider this an issue, pregnancy, and also other hygiene problems regarding women.
It's like he's really turning the stereotypes on their head in this passage, right?
No, he didn't. How can you even say that there's nothing indicating in this text that the show was delegating household chores to men? It's just unbelievable.
I mean, that's...
One time I was teaching a class in Greek and we were going through this passage and
yeah, I cannot imagine that.
A man who had been a missionary to Afghanistan and Pakistan said, they would hate this passage when I really started.
No, they would be laughing at that you are a Greek scholar and talking about these kind of things.
Pointing out what it told them to do. Because, I mean, in those cultures to this day,
Right.
the kinds of things that he's giving as a model and then telling men to nurture and feed like you do your own body.
Right.
Those are counter stereotypical models.
But they are not literal. They are not literal things. He doesn't say, oh man, just be at home and nourish your children. And where do you get now food? Somehow you get delivered from Tesco? Somebody needs to work. And it's not going to be the businesswoman of Greece 2,000 years ago going out making money and her husband at home nourishing their children. It's a general mindset a man should acquire over the years. He's a servant to his family. Not in a literal sense, but it's more so a philosophy that I am doing everything I can for my family. My plans, my interests, my hopes and dreams are no longer important and no longer existent because my family, my wives, my children are over and on the top of everything. This is what he's talking about. He's not talking about doing the dishes and all these kind of things. And this is a prime example that learning does not make one wise or understand the Bible.
Models. And so what I would understand he's doing here is saying, okay, submit to one another. Let me use women as my primary model of what it means to submit.
Yeah, but if you don't submit because you're strong, independent, and equal to men, that you cannot be the model for that. So this is a contradiction in itself, what she's saying. If we are equal, if husbands and wives, although I don't have a wife, I need to make it clear right now, but if husbands and wives are equal and wives do not submit, then they cannot be a model. So this is full of contradictions, and we are only at 20 minutes, so we're going to pick it up from here. And again, my goal is to highlight the contradictions and the nonsense these people are talking. And not even saying I understand everything or I am the best or just come to me and I give you light. However, corrupted by the theology, this lady, what she's talking, that doesn't make no sense according to scriptures. And everyone saw this. So I'll come back later and I hope it was useful and see you soon. And hallelujah and shalom.